Well, I'm wondering, it's 7 o'clock or slightly after. Should we begin without a quorum? I guess we can do that.
What do we have to vote tonight?
The tennis courts.
That'll be awkward without a quorum.
We won't be able to do it, but we can talk about
It would be a straw poll, really, instead of a.
Yeah.
vote.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this will be a informal meeting, not a formal meeting, because we lack a quorum. So why don't we start, and I'll take a roll call, and I guess it's myself, Robert,
True.
John Farrell, and Kim, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, present.
So we have 4 people. All right. The next order of business is like to introduce Rick Johansson, who's in the middle of your screen. He's a new
Hi, Rick.
prospective member, hasn't been voted by the Board of Selectmen yet, but hopefully we'll get on their agenda soon. What I'd like to do now is, could I ask each of you to introduce yourself to Rick and tell him who you are and where you're from so that he's familiar? Why don't we start in the upper left corner, Steve Osowski.
Well, in my screen, I'm in the middle, but I am chairman of the Recreation Board, among other things. I'm also chairman of the Hamilton Board of Assessors, and I'm also the assessor for the town of Wenham. None of that affects you guys, and I'm just letting you know so that it's kind of like a full disclosure thing. In my past, I preceded Jay as president of Hamilton Wenham Youth Soccer, so we are acquainted. And other than that, I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Robert?
Yes, I'm a member at large. I seem to have come onto this committee, what, Jay, 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And I'm a resident of Hamilton, as were my predecessors. And I live up here on Sagamore Hill. And I really enjoy the town and the community. I'm a past president of the Community House of Hamilton and Wenham. And other than that, lifelong member of Christchurch, Hamilton, and Wenham.
Good. Pat, Shannon?
I'm Pat. I am a staff member for the town. I serve as the community preservation coordinator and assistant to the town manager. So I coordinate for the CPC, Affordable Housing Trust, and Historic District, and then kind of serve as Joe, the town manager's right-hand man, for whatever needs to be done.
Whatever we tell you to do.
John?
I'm Sean Farrell, I'm the chair of the Board of Selectmen. Been on the board for 6 or so years. Been on the CPC a handful of times on and off. I don't know if there's much else to say.
Okay, Kim?
My name is Kim, and until recently, I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 7 years, and I did just resign because I thought my time was up. So I guess I'm an at-large member here, and I have kids in the school. And before that, I was on the board for the Friends of the Library.
All right, very good. And then there's me. I'm chair of the CPC, but I'm also secretary of the Town Hall Building Committee, and we'll get into that later. Rick, you want to say a couple words about yourself and your interest?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks everyone for considering me. My wife and I moved here 4 years ago from Boston, and I just love the town. Think it's just a perfect place to raise kids. We've since had 2 children. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So busy father, now working from home because of the pandemic. My profession, I'm a headhunter. I do tech recruiting and done that my whole career. Really like it. But I wanted to try to contribute if I can to any way possible to help out with this committee and just make sure the town stays great.
Very good.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
If I can interject, Mr. Butler, I'm in an office that my wife is rearranging. We're trying to clean things out but anyway, you just mentioned a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. This is my 5-year-old and 2-year-old.
literally, it's just sitting at my feet.
Taken approximately 28 years ago.
Wow.
So my recommendation is, Rick, don't blink.
Try
Enjoy
not to.
every minute,
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
it's been fun so far. It's been really fun.
yeah.
It's-
My youngest just turned 9 yesterday, and it did like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So enjoy and welcome to the town, and thank you for your participation. And I have no business talking now, so I'll shut up.
Well, since we don't have a quorum, we'll dispense with approval of the minutes from December 10th. Let's go to the committee reports. For your information, Rick, several of the members of our committee are actually appointed from other committees. You're an at-large member, as of myself, as is Kim, as is Robert, but in the case of Sean, he self-appoints himself from the Board of Selectmen. So we
That's
go to those, since they represent other committees, we turn to him and he's going to tell us all that's happening in town on the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so what's new and noteworthy? We had a meeting on the when was it? The 1st. We have a lot of openings, so if you know anybody, we have a human rights commission we just formed in town. We have a forum, kind of an open house night for that on the 23rd. We're going to have speakers from various human rights coalitions and committees around the North Shore speak to kind of what the role will be in Hamilton and what other communities have done with it. We're accepting applications for that now. We have some openings on the Historic District Commission. And Kim, we have an opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals now. We
Actually,
have,
there's two.
There's 2, right? Yeah.
Bill's just filling in
Those
till
are
they,
temporary, right?
and he's very mad at
We have-
me. That's all right.
He's taking one for the team. We have an opening for the Open Space Committee as well. And then in our last meeting, we approved some date for our budget setting, which is Saturday the 20th, where the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom and department heads all get together and we kind of hash out all the budget that we formed so far. And then we open the warrant. So the warrant is open for articles for the spring meeting. And let's see what else. We have a town manager evaluation going on that we'll be talking about. Also, I think it was this week or early last week, Everest Communications pulled a building permit to start work on the cell phone tower behind Town Hall. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Am I missing anything, Pat, that's kind of new and noteworthy?
I thought I just had the agenda open. I think you pretty much covered everything. The only other board opening I can think of, there's two planning board seats.
Right,
Yeah,
we've got a lot of seats are up for re-election or pulling papers for. Oh, the other thing, we met with the school committee last night, the Board of Selectmen, the Wenham select member, I guess now, since they don't have a select board anymore. And both FinComs and the school committee and school leadership all met, trying to meet somewhere in the middle on the budget. The school is proposing a 5.5% or a little bit larger increase in their budget this year. And in order for the towns to not have an override, we need to get it down to about 3 or 3.2% to avoid an override in Hamilton. So we're doing some heavy negotiating with them to trim ideally $400,000 out of a $40 million budget almost. So we're hopeful that they can do it. But some members seem like they're kind of at loggerheads with us that they don't want to budge on it. But we've had substantial increases in the school budget. And I think in the last 4 years, it's increased 30%, which is unsustainable. I kind of talk myself hoarse, keep saying that, but hopefully they'll listen this year, because I feel that with the current climate economically and satisfaction in the district, it may be a failed budget if you're trying to do a big increase. But we have another meeting with them coming up, or at least I do with the chairs, to kind of rehash stuff out a little bit. Hopefully we meet somewhere where everybody's happy and we can present a budget that everyone agrees with. So that's kind of it for budget talk.
Good
That's all I
luck,
have.
Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
Since you mentioned the schools, I was at a meeting today with the Town Hall Building Committee, and David Wanger of the FinCom joined us. And he dropped a bombshell at our meeting saying that he learned that the schools are looking at building a new school in the next 3 to 5 years and have already applied to the state for funding to do so.
Really?
They applied last year, but were denied. They're reapplying this year
High school?
for the elementary levels.
Yeah,
So
oh,
looking-
were they gonna shut
looking at-
down Winthrop or something? Isn't that a leased land? Okay.
Yes, they leased it from Hamilton for, I don't know, it's $1 or something like that, but it's I was part of the initiative to lower that lease. It was a 20-year lease. And I pushed for a 5-year lease, and we met kind of in the middle at a 10-year lease. Because I felt that that's some pretty valuable land in Hamilton, and we have 98% of the schools in Hamilton. So that's a lot of real estate that is taken up with no tax. And I think Winthrop area would be great for some type of development, senior housing, affordable housing, shops, mixed use, something. So they're maybe moving to that direction, because I think even now they could absorb Winthrop or Cutler into one school with the declining enrollment that we have.
Okay. Sherry, is that you I see on the screen?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry I am tardy.
That's okay. Thank you, Sherry.
You made our quorum.
Oh, good. I had a long day at work, so.
Okay. Well, since you've now joined us, what I'd like to do is take a step back, and could somebody make a motion to approve the December 10th minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, let me do a roll call vote. Who's voting for the minutes? Just say yes if you approve the minutes. Robert,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes,
and Kim.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Next on the agenda is, well, are there any other committee reports? Sherry, you want to tell us anything about the,
sure. The Housing Authority, they're continuing with the porch project's on hold because of the ground being solid, but they are pursuing the Central Avenue, fixing the porches there. And then there's an ongoing bathroom project. So that's good. It's renovating the bathroom somewhat as apartments come available, but also if they can get in there and do it, they're trying to do that. And it's long overdue. And
That's good. That's good news.
good for the plumbing, good for keeping the buildings up. So that's good.
And that reminded me, one other kind of new and noteworthy thing is the property at 5960 Willow Street is now in control of the developer. So they're ready to move forward with that project. I mean, that would be really great for town, because that adds 18 affordable units to our roster, kind of.
Great.
all right, next, the item on the agenda is the funding grant request for Patton Park tennis courts. In the meeting packet, you received a funding request from Sean Timmons, and Steve Ozahowski is representing him tonight because Sean is off vacationing. So I guess the request is for 32 grand for resurfacing the 3 tennis courts at Patton Park, just the tennis courts, not the basketball court. And that we had determined when we had an eligibility meeting that this was a capital request that will essentially extend the life of the court so that it does qualify under eligibility rules for CPC funding. And now we just have to vote tonight on whether we agree to approve a grant for 32 grand to get this done. He's got two quotes to date that I believe Shannon sent out this week. And so we need to do that. Steve, you want to say anything about this request? Or-
I really don't have much to say, except that my experience in dealing with Sean for however long I've been dealing with him on the rec board, 5 years, 6, 12, 20, 30, I don't know. He's a very competent person, and he's looked into this. We've discussed it briefly at one of our Zoom meetings. It clearly needs to be done. And I have to say that looking at what happened to the tennis courts in Wenham at Pingree Park, the expression that comes to mind is a stitch in time. It only gets worse. Those courts in Wenham are now unusable and unrepairable. So I would, because of Sean's competence, endorse this, and B, because of the fact that it needs to be done, and it remains, I think, the one of few options for the high school tennis team. We really need to do it, and I'm confident that Sean has got good estimates, and that is realistic. So you pepper me with questions, and I will happily write them down and answer them next week.
Okay, no, I've seen the revised quotes that Sean got, because he had the tennis courts, the basketball court on the original ones. And he did admit that at our last meeting that he would have to go to a public bidding process and get 3 bids and probably take the lowest bid. And as he has done in the past, when we authorized money to put in new basketball hoops at Patton Park, any money not spent would be returned to the CPC. So
Right.
I think we're on good ground here. We also got a letter of endorsement from several seniors who play pickleball on those courts, asking us to support this request. And I, for one, think it's a good idea that we should do this. And I
If I
guess,
could interject, I am a participant in what I call old man basketball, and we played at the rec center until last March. And I got the guys together, and we played at Patton Park a number of times in September and October, and even early in November. And every time we were there, which was very often very early in the morning, we're talking 6:30, 7 o'clock, weekdays and weekends, there were people playing pickleball. So that the letter that you have there is representing a lot of people, because pickleball is huge, and they bring their own nets, they set things up, and those courts are used. So I strongly recommend that we take care of them.
okay.
What's coming up in the spring besides this for us to look at? I know that town hall and the whole 3% and all of that stuff, but the reality is we wouldn't be able to put that into place and actually get money for that for almost 2 years. So
Yep.
this looks like the only request we have sitting for the spring.
Right.
So why wouldn't we do it?
Exactly.
I agree.
I believe it. This
Can I
is,
just Can I just ask a question about the quotes in the packet? The last 2 pages of the funding, it's 2 quotes. They look exactly the same, but the price is different by about $2,000. What's the? am I missing something?
No, so one of
I mean,
them,
splitting hairs, but it just, one is 28,000, the other one's 30,000. They're same date, same everything, kind of.
if you look at line 6 on the on the 2 quotes, that's where the difference is. It's, one has installed 3 membranes of the layer, the other one has 4 membranes.
Okay.
There are different types of crack repair, I guess.
Okay. All right. Now I just looked over it like 3 times trying to figure it.
I did that too, and it took me a while to
Okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
One comment I have is before we vote on it, we'll have to put a initiation date on this if we approve it, 2 years out probably. And secondly, if we do approve it and we go to town meeting on May 1st, Sean had sent a couple of graphic color photos of the condition of the court showing how big the cracks are on there.
Yeah.
Would we need the pictures of the courts at town meeting, or is that just going to take up time?
I don't think it hurts.
We could, kind of, Jay, we could do kind of what we've had before where we kind of have it in our back pocket,
Okay.
because sometimes things just breeze through. And
Yep.
then other times somebody puts a hold on it or something like that. I think that's when we could say, here's the conditions.
Okay. All right.
It's the only thing we have in front of them besides our
Right.
administrative costs, so.
I have a
I
question.
wonder if go ahead.
Did we resolve the last meeting about maintenance? Wasn't that an issue? Why this happened now is because we weren't doing proper maintenance? You have the funds with the rec board to maintain the court so they don't get this bad again?
Well,
We have funds. I'm sorry, cracks happen. In Wenham, at Pingree Park, the reason the cracks happen is because of the trees around it. So it's hard to believe, given the location of these tennis courts, that the trees impacted. But sure enough, you've got trees along the path, the driveway there next to the railroad tracks, and trees do spread, and that happens. And this is, you can't maintain cracks. They happen, and you need to fix them. So,
But I thought we talked at the last meeting, that was the issue, right? Or am I making?
I was not there, so I will defer.
we were concerned because it needs to be a capital expense for us to be able to approve CPC dollars. So the question was, is it a capital expense or a maintenance? And
It is.
I think we dug into that a little bit with the CPA Coalition Office and with Marissa Batista, our town finance director. This activity is $30,000 or so, and the ceiling for capital is at 10,000. The other issue is this particular project has been on the capital projects list for the town for several years, and it's been planned. And essentially, when you do this, it extends the life of the courts maybe 5 or 7 years. So a determination was made that, yeah, this is a capital expense. This isn't just maintenance. And I also found a document from a company that does tennis court repair and new ones, and they classify it as a capital expense as well. Maintenance is a lot.
I think in the past we had done some maintenance to it, but the cracks just get so big, you can't fill them. And this system that Sean's proposing is quite a unique kind of thing. They kind of cut the cracks out and refill them. It's a whole different.
Okay, all right, maybe that's
You
what I was
think of
thinking
the
of.
road repair where they spray the tar in the cracks and they say it's good. This is a whole different process.
Yeah. Does anyone
And
else?
it's guaranteed for a certain amount of time as well.
Yeah. Rick, you have any questions?
No, I'd like to get my racket out and play.
Anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
So what's the date on this? Like, when would this begin and end?
He would
We'll
do,
start as soon as they get the money, Steve. Basically, as soon as the fiscal year starts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sean
yeah.
provided me with.
It's a priority. As I mentioned, these tennis courts are it, as far as the two towns are concerned, more or less. So it's a
And personally,
priority, so, I'm sorry.
I feel a little worried that somebody might trip on one of these tracks and like hurt themselves.
Yeah, they're
I
getting
don't
pretty
know.
big.
You know,
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
have to. I don't want us to look at like having to close them before they're.
Yeah, that would go over
repaired,
real
yeah.
well, Sherry. That would go over real.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I don't want the town, somebody to trip and be like, oh, they should have fixed it, so.
They're not that bad yet. The cracks in
Okay.
at Pingree Park are that bad, but the
Yeah.
Patton's not that bad yet.
okay.
Sean's plan
Well,
was
I'm
to
very
start.
much for this.
Sean's plan was to start the project right around July 1st. Basically after, if the funds are awarded at town meeting, and go through the procurement process and then plan to start.
How long would they
Thank you.
be out of commission?
It was
think it was
pretty
a
quick. It was like a
yeah.
5 days or something like that, if I remember right. It was like a
you.
week or less.
Yeah. It was a matter of days.
Okay, could somebody make a motion to approve the funding for the tennis courts?
So moved.
Okay, can I have a
Seconded.
Second, okay. I have a motion and it's seconded. Let me just call the roll and you say yes or no to the funding. I say yes. Robert,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
and Kim.
Yes,
Okay. Funding is approved. This will go on the warrant for the May 1st town meeting.
Awesome.
All set. Thank you, Steve.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Dave.
much. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And even though it's thoroughly enjoyable to attend meetings, of which I've attended a few, the Celtics are playing, and I'm going to retire with a beer and some chips. So good night, guys.
Take care.
And truly, thank you for what you do. Really, it's getting hard. It's hard to get good help. It really is.
Thanks, Oz.
Okay, now we're going to review the open grants. The town approved $3 million grant for the town hall renovation at the last special town meeting. And we had put a requirement on there that the remainder of the funds, the 4.7 million for the construction, be approved at a special election, and that construction start by November of 2022. Those are the two requirements. Well, as most of us know, the vote failed at the December 3rd special election, so it didn't pass, which left us in limbo, but the grant still stands. The grant was approved, so we didn't specify which special election, so
Right.
they come up again. But
Right.
construction still has to start by November 2022, or the grant would be revoked. But right now, the grant money for that bond is in escrow, so because it's still valid. So it
Right.
doesn't need to be revoted anytime soon. I'll give you a little history. December 3rd, when the town was asked to approve the $4.7 million bond, it was defeated 669 to 441 at the polls. 1,130 people voted, but the number of eligible voters in town is 5,967. So 80% of the time, 80% of the voters didn't vote on this. So the Town Hall Building Committee, after an absence of a month or so, started meeting again in January to figure out what do we do. So we've had a couple of brainstorming sessions about what do we think the problem was, and we generated 45 ideas, and then did some multi-point voting to see which problems we thought were the biggest. And then we did another brainstorming session where we tried to come up with ideas. So, okay, what do we want to do? We came up with another almost 40 ideas for what we want to do that we condensed to 29. But in the midst of doing these brainstorming sessions about defining the problem and figuring out what we should do to get it approved, communicate, educate, et cetera, the town has hired a consultant, Kirsten Alexander from Wenham. And she's a marketing consultant. And she's on the payroll right now. We met with her this afternoon, and she has a lot of great ideas for managing a website, a Facebook page, direct media, video, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We just saw her plan just this afternoon. And so more to come on how we proceed. One of the things that affect us is that I brazenly threw out the concept that if the town ever voted to go to a 3% surcharge, the CPC could pick up the whole tab. In other words, the $3 million grant that was already approved and the additional 4.7 million. And that's true. It could happen. That said, Pat, Shannon and I have been going back and forth for days, weeks, trying to figure out the process for making such a thing happen. And I think as of yesterday, we figured it out. The short answer is it can be done. The problem that Robert already adhered to is you won't see any money until like July of 2023, even if it were approved this May.
Right, because it takes a full year
Yeah, you got to wait for a full
get it.
year of search and
Revenue.
collections in
Right.
the town before the state recognizes it and you get the credit for the 3%. So
Right.
it can be done, but it's a long process. It needs to be voted at town meeting and then it has to be voted at the polls. And that might be an issue as well, as we just found with the town hall. And then it happens, but it's a long-term effort. So I don't think that's going to be anything we want to take on, even though I will tell you, I've been on this board, I think it's longer than Robert. I've been talking about this for 10 or 15 years. It
Yep.
comes up every once in a while. And we can never find a project that makes sense to push it. The town hall does, but the problem is we should have thought of that 2 years ago.
Right.
Now,
I mean, well, we did, there just wasn't an appetite for it, right?
right. And with talk of overrides for school budgets and et cetera, there's probably not much appetite for a surcharge increase now, even
Right.
though
It's difficult because I think we all see, because we've done the math on it over the years, that if we were to go to a 3%, it's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's free money, but it almost doubles our money. And if you look at the cost to the taxpayers, if it's bonded by the town and our tax rate goes up, if we increase that 1% surcharge for CPC, it's considerably less than it would increase the tax rate.
Yep.
But getting people to figure all that out and have all that information when they come to the polls is a whole different story.
The math is quite complex, not complex, but it's very confusing because you got increases in tax rate and increases in assessments. And so people's taxes they pay are changing. And so how do you lay a picture out over a couple of year period to explain how that all works? Very confusing. I
think it is really, excuse me. I think it's really very much worth pursuing and kind of doing some of the comparisons, because if I understand it correctly, and I think we talked about this, Jay, like last, like right before COVID hit, if I'm on the right vein here, it just seems like there's a lot of things that could be done around town that people want to have done. And then it automatically goes to, well, let's try to get it approved and paid by property taxes. And so this is a little bit different in the sense that for a reasonably short amount of money in a particular household, you get a lot back from the state. And then a lot of the projects that people want done can be covered by that. Like even, I guess I think of like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like a school sports field or, you know, if we didn't have the funding from this committee, probably people would want the tennis courts replaced, and we'd be looking at like trying to do it through some type of budget that are funded by taxes, you know. And so this is just a little bit of difference. And I felt like the way it was explained to me that you exponentially get just so much more bang for your buck, you know.
Well, you've got a couple of problems.
Yeah.
The first is that we as a
I did it wrong. I
Huh?
understood it wrong.
No, you're correct, but there's a few other missing pieces. There are very few projects that are going to happen in town that can be eligible for CPC funding. Turf field at the high school, in part, yes. Town hall, yes. What's left of any magnitude? That's the problem. I don't think there's any others. Schools, buildings, vehicles, no, none of it's eligible. So you need a big project to hold it up, saying unless you vote for the surcharge increase, you can't have this. the town hall would be one of them, but I don't know. I don't think that the town hall building committee wants to wait 2 years. And like even the upcoming annual town meeting, I don't think there's much appetite to vote in a surcharge increase. For instance, the average price of a home in Hamilton this past year was $613,400. And they're paying, their annual tax bill right now is $10,921. You increase, and the surcharge is $180. If you increase the surcharge to 3%, the surcharge goes from 180 to 270. So it's like a $90 increase, and the taxes go up. Actually, the taxes don't go up a whole lot. They go up maybe a couple $100. So it's not a big increase to the taxpayer, but it's been tough to convince people of that.
A lot of the people that we can convince or should convince, one of the differences between this surcharge and your property tax is that if you can't afford the surcharge based on your median income, you can go to town hall and have the surcharge waived.
Yep.
As far as I know, I've tried, but they haven't waived my property taxes because I'm like retired. But
We
at
don't
any rate,
typically- even though you're a nice guy, we typically
yes,
don't do
exactly.
You got to give up that 6-figure job at West Marine.
Yeah.
But our funding increases from about 420 or 440 to about 800,000, right? If we go to 3%,
It's huge.
Yeah, it's a big
it's a
number.
huge
Yep.
difference.
Yeah, it's a big number. You get a lot more money, but the problem is you got to have, okay, if we do this, what are we going to get for it? And like I say, I can't list too many big projects that I know are coming down the pipe and that would be eligible. The turf field has a host of problems with it, even though that is one. There's a couple of prohibitions that say you can't fund the turf material itself. You can't fund anything if they turn it into a stadium. And then there's the issue of the 500 grand that the town has in escrow that they could use. But the problem is it came from the sale of property at the Patton estate, and that Wenham would have to match that according to the school formula. And so they have to come up with, I don't know, 30, 40% of that before Hamilton could spend their portion. And I doubt this committee or the voters are going to approve us using CPC money before that 500K gets used. So things are not as clear with that one. And that project seems to be moving downstream. Although I did learn in poking around this last month that there's yet another contract by the company that's been doing all the assessments and designs, that they were going to embark on yet another revision to the design for the athletic fields at the high school, middle school, this time to include 4 new tennis courts, and that they were going to get an ad hoc advisory committee set up of different people to sit in judgment of what was going on. But I don't know whether they actually signed the contract or whether it's going. But in the context of looking at that, I learned there is a fundraising group or a friends group for the turf fields. I forget the name, the acronym, but there's a Friends of Turf Fields on Facebook in town that they're ostensibly doing some work to support this and perhaps some fundraising as well. So there is things going on, but I don't know all the details.
Yeah, the school had money in their budget last year when it was approved for some more redesign of that Gale Associates plan for the $9 million kind of turf complex. They added some money in the budget to have a relook at that plan to make it more inclusive for all genders. The school had looked at it and thought it was lacking Title IX equality. So they're looking at it in a different light to try and have more girls sports kind of included in the plan, plus the tennis courts as well.
Yeah. My notes say that the proposal by Gale Associates was on November 10th 2020, and that it was a $63,000 contract.
Yeah, that's about right.
But I don't know whether it was signed or it's alive or well or whatever. But I think to your suggestion, Sherry, when we've discussed this a couple of times in the past years, I think we decided that one, there needs to be a big project that we can hold up that we would use the money for. And second, we would prefer that there be another committee or another friends group that would lead the charge to get it approved, because we didn't think the CPC would get very far leading the charge to improve the surcharge, since they're the committee that gives out the money. So we thought it would carry more weight if a committee that really wanted a project like a Friends of the Turf Fields or somebody like that, if they led the charge, we'd certainly help them, but I don't think we would want to lead it.
Right. And I was wondering if that means like that it would be a good idea to, I don't know that people really know so much about that exponentially you'd get that much more money and that sort of thing.
Well,
I think we're the people that know. That's about it.
We've tried to communicate it. I mean, it isn't for lack of effort that we have explained the potential, and we have open meetings, and strangely, very few people come.
One of the ideas that came out of the town hall building committee, in fact, I made the idea. I don't know whether it's going to be used, but I suggested that we got to write a short summary of the CPC and how much money they have, what could be done, what could be funded, and what would happen going from 2 to 3%, and publish it as some sort of an article off the town hall display or website or whatever it might be, and with Pat Shannon's help to educate people about what the CPC can do, because a lot of people have misinformation that we can fund a lot of things that wouldn't be eligible. So that's probably something I should make sure happens, so that we keep more people informed.
Let me know if I can help.
Okay.
And for example, with the fields, I feel as though probably they're looking at private funding. I mean, everywhere you drive, the Institute of Stavings has their stamp on a turf field, like Newburyport. And so I think they're looking at private funding, but that maybe as like an arm of their committee, you know, they could educate and promote about this with the eye on the prize that, you know, I don't like to say, well, if you do the work, then you'll get approved for this, but you know, that it's a possibility. And I just as a side note, I remember when Hamilton was doing something with the water infrastructure, and we all went to town and we all voted to have it on our water bills instead of in our taxes. And I don't know how it would have worked out differently, but I remember everybody opened their water bill and they were like, wow, it's twice as much. Well, we had voted that way, you know, and I think the impact, if you just did it in your taxes, would have felt like much less. And so it's the reason I bring that up is because I feel like how is the message delivered to people that to spend maybe $90 more would be different than trying to pool all these other resources, or look at an increase in your taxes, or we don't have what we want because we only have property taxes to pull on, you know.
Right.
I don't know.
Plus that point, right? When you're saying you're going to raise the surcharge and cause the average home a $90 increase over the course of a year, you're getting another $90 almost from the state, you know, for that added $90 you're putting into the kitty. So that's $180 for every $90 you're investing. So that's a win-win in my mind. But getting people to agree to raise their taxes voluntarily doesn't always work unless it's for the schools or some other major purpose.
Yeah, you just really have to market it in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think now too, you kind of have to do it in a graphic format, just showing that. And I think 'cause we get so much information now, the newsletters that I read are the ones that actually have pictures, like you're showing me in a quick little bit what I need to know. If you could take what you just said and put it in some neat little visualization that I'll see on one screen, I don't have to go through 5 clicks to get to your article. There's a lot of white space. There's not 800 words.
Yep.
It's a way, because that's the way people now are getting their information, I think.
Yeah. And by the way, in terms of the turf fields, the up until the last couple of years, the Joint Rec Board was the one sponsoring any work at the high school and middle school. They came before us asking for money, and in January 2017, this committee paid for the study by Gale Associates. We gave them a $47,647 grant. So we paid for the engineering studies for that field back in 2017 because the schools didn't want to fund it and they weren't even interested in leading the charge. So it was the rec board doing it. We gave them the money. This latest Gale Associates contract for 63 grand, I assumedly would be funded by the schools. This would be the first time they've taken ownership and spent some of their own money in doing something about those fields. And they know full well that we can afford it. So somebody, some friends group or the schools or somebody needs to beat a path to our door and start a conversation about what they would like us to do. I don't think we need to tell them. I think those people who want the turf fields know full well that they can come to us, but they just have to understand that there's a lot of blocking issues that would have to be explained, and not everybody understands everything. Another one that just comes to mind is that when they started to do something with the field designs years ago, 10 years ago, there was a huge uproar with the abutters to the high school about lights in the field. Almost every one of them said, no way, no how. Without lights, even Gale Associates says it isn't worth doing. So there's a few battles to be fought before you get that project done. Moving on, one other comment that came out of the building committee is that I was asked, is there any chance we can bump up our contribution? In other words, increase the $3 million contribution by $500,000, million and a half to quote, show that we were going all out to support this project.
Oh, geez.
Having said that,
3 million doesn't say enough.
No, it's
Well,
quiet.
we'll
It's
say-
a quiet 3 million.
I won't say which person on the committee asked for it, but I will tell you that when we did the brainstorming session this past week and asked for ideas of what we needed to do, that wasn't even thrown out as an idea. That came in from left field by a member of our committee. And I made an attempt to figure out whether we could afford it. And I haven't completed my analysis because I did some calculations that got confusing. So I gave them to Pat Shannon and asked him to tell me whether he liked them or not. So he hasn't completed his analysis yet. But my gut says no. I think it'll put us out of business. If we bump with 3 to 5 million, we could do it with about $8 to spare. And at 4 million, we'd have 179 grand. And so the numbers are just too big. We would not have any money for other grants. And I think there are many other things can be done before we increase the CPC grant size.
I also think you have to march that in front of the voters. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we may hypothetically think it's a wonderful idea and do it, and then the voters go, wait a minute, didn't we just vote to
Oh,
hand
yeah.
you 3
Oh,
million bucks?
It has to go back to the voters for a
That's
two-thirds
right.
vote.
Right.
Now, the other thing that happened this afternoon is that we got word that the Capital Committee has been looking at the town hall project, and the word from them, and we don't have their final report yet, and we don't have the interpretation, is they'd like to whittle down the effort to make it a much smaller effort and only do certain things like maybe put an elevator on the back of town hall, maybe address some life issues or ADA compliance, but not do a lot of the things that were going to be done with town hall to bring the cost down, but no details as to what that. So the committee, the building committee may be faced with, how do you do that? So
I don't know if we can.
I don't know if
I
we
mean,
can.
we're up against, if we do any repairs to that building, that we're gonna trigger the ADA and et cetera for having to put in fire suppression and ADA compliance, which pushes us right back up to about $5 million or so.
Yeah, that's the
So,
problem.
I mean, if we even just repair the cupola or something, we can only spend so much money in that building before it triggers the renovation of the whole building.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money either, because the town hall, the assessment of the building is not all that much. So
Well, yeah, and right now, I think the proposal, I think we just got, and Tim could probably verify, or maybe Jay has talked about it, but I think even just the repairs that we need to do to the building this year are either going to trigger or come close to triggering that
Oh, yeah.
amount.
I think they will. So.
And then we have to do it anyway or abandon the building.
Yeah. And what we're told is that this meeting that you mentioned earlier tonight, that there's a meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom on February 20th, that after that meeting, we will be given some direction as to whether going to be allowed to get on the warrant to go back and ask for the same 4.7 million again. But we have to wait until that meeting happens to see what you guys decide. And then we were told the Board of Selectmen would give us some guidance after that.
Well, I think the last time we had talked about it, I spoke to Mike about it at a kind of a meeting with Mike and Joe and I. And then we had to talk at a Board of Selectmen meeting where we had decided and voted that we would move it forward to bring it to the Springtown meeting warrant unless something went totally south and it just wasn't feasible because of something that happened within the building committee and the architects, or something had changed, or we were looking at a big override. And I mean, my hesitation was, I don't know if people would have the palate for it if we had a override plus asking for, a debt exclusion at the polls again.
Yeah, that was our understanding. So we're, after listening to our new consultant today and getting her plan of what she was going to do, her efforts were placed on hold until we get the green light to move ahead. So we're waiting to you guys decide what's going to happen at town meeting. So more to come. All right.
Jay, can I ask you a question that's kind of related but unrelated? Our kind of list on our website of maybes or priority lists for possible grants,
Yeah.
are there any of those that have we reviewed that recently? And is there any stir from, usually we're getting asked from Legion, their community house or something like that. Is there any of those on that list that look like they're going to come up in the next year, or have most of those just kind of fallen off?
Most of them have fallen off. There's a couple of placeholders from the rec board that there's been no action or even discussion on. There's a sledding hill, there's ice skating. No, there's a beach at Chabaco Lake.
Yeah.
And I was going to remove the reviving the beach at Chabaco Lake, but you know about this new proposal to build 50 homes on Chabaco Road, the Meadowbrook Farms. It's being sold for 4.3 million, and there's a proposal to build 50 homes, which would be essentially across the street from the beach. So I wonder when those homes are built, there'd be pressure to revive the idea of reviving the beach.
I'm surprised we weren't asked to make a bid for that land as part of the open space project, because it backs right up to Chabaco Woods trails and so forth and so on. It's going to be a bloody nightmare.
Well, Tom Catalano was asked early on to meet with the Essex County Greenbelt and the Chabaco Woods Land Management Association that controls those woods. And they met, and I don't know if part of them met with the owners, but they wanted a lot of money. I mean, 4.3 million for 66 acres, mostly wetlands.
It's assessed way lower than that. And I think Greenbelt and the property owner couldn't come to an agreement
Right.
And then the developer stepped in and said, we'll give you what you're asking, pretty much.
So
Exactly.
they're gonna put 50 houses on land that couldn't possibly perk if you or I bought it?
They,
Well, it
you
hasn't
know,
been approved yet.
there's no proposal yet.
Okay.
So, I don't
It's
know
just
if
a
it's 50, I
buyer.
don't know if it's 40. We don't have anything in front of us yet, so can't really speak to any of it.
Well, I'm
Got it.
getting a lot of information in my mailbox to fight against it.
Right, yeah.
Well, I think some of the trails are going to be kept. I can't verify that, but Sean, have you heard that? Like some,
I don't want to talk about it too much before there's a proposal in front of us, but I will say that the potential developer has been very open and very willing to be a good neighbor.
I got a postcard in my mailbox this week called from SaveShabacoTrails.org.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they just
Yeah, I
formed
got
just
one too.
recently.
Yeah, I got one too.
So, more to come.
Either they're excluding me or I haven't gotten mine yet.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah. Maybe tomorrow.
I didn't get one either. It must be this guy. Down.
Well, at any rate, on our list of potential anticipated projects, there's none on there that are going to move anytime soon. No.
Yeah.
That-
And none of them were really big ticket items, if I remember right. I mean, a few were, but not like a town hall ask or
No,
or a turf-
no, nothing like that. And so, no, I don't think, in fact, we did trim that list a little bit this past July with Pat's help. And
Yeah.
I was thinking as we move ahead, we'll probably look at it again, but there's nothing big on there.
Yeah, I have it open right now. There's actually only 7 projects, and that includes the town hall and just general affordable housing trust
Stuff.
Right.
donations. So
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of our yearly grant that we know is going to come every year, is ask for the Affordable Housing Trust.
We still gonna get a repeat on the let's feed the local zoo population with our not weed? Is that gonna pop up
think-
again?
I don't know if it'll pop up again. We've closed that grant, I think, right, Jay?
We haven't,
And
they didn't spend all their money. They gave a lot of it back.
Yeah.
Just curious that they hadn't approached us.
who are you talking about?
That was I think the Conscom brought that one.
This was a grant to remove invasive species of plants around town on town-owned property that would take over the woods or something. And
It's knotweed, and the
It's
knotweed is great food for ruminants. That is to say, giraffes and other ruminants at the Stoneham Zoo. So they were cutting this stuff down, throwing it in the back of trucks, bringing it to the zoo.
Oh, you were serious. I thought you were talking in code.
No, there's no secret code. It's literally food for ruminants, and they love
the
it.
Giraffes
And
love it.
yep,
Robert, you're still upset they're not going to take the not
my own knotweed. I know.
They only took it on public property.
That's true.
All right, the next two open grants, I'm going to ask Pat Shannon to report. The first one is the First Congregational Church of Hamilton for the belfry and clock tower. We approved a $75,000 grant at the last town meeting.
Yep, and then so last week at the Historic District Commission, they approved the historic preservation restriction agreement. So I actually just sent that over to the church this week. I was been swapping some emails with their director of operations, just kind of correcting some details in there. I also sent over the CPC grant agreement to them. It's kind of the standard grant agreement that's gone to most of past projects. It includes the stipulations in the warrant article. So yeah, so just waiting to get that stuff finalized, and I haven't had an update on their plan to start construction, but I believe it was this summer. So hopefully next meeting I'll have a little more info once all that's signed and they move forward with their contractor. The next one, Affordable Housing Trust. So we had a meeting last night. We had the new executive director of Essex County Habitat on, as well as Don Preston, who I think most of you should know. So they actually presented a request, a formal request for a commitment of funds from the Affordable Housing Trust for $400,000, which was granted by the trust after discussion and kind of proof of other funding. So they secure, and this is for the 434 Asbury across the street from Canterbrook. So Habitats has commitment from Institution for Savings. I'm not sure what the exact amount is, but it's pretty substantial. They also got a grant from the North Shore Home Consortium. Grant was for $80,000, but they're applying for the grant in phases. So phase one is going to be, I believe it's going to be 4 units. I think they plan on it's 10 units total. I believe they're breaking it off 4-4. There's a lot of factors that kind of will go into that. I'm sure it will change, but basically they're anticipating a 3-year project, each phase, 1 phase per year. One thing that came up was a request actually from Russ Tanzer, the former chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, who's moved out of town. He joined, and he had a good suggestion that Habitat look to add all 10 units to the SHI before, prior to the other phasing starting, maybe pull foundation permits. So we're gonna try to work with them to make that happen, to make sure that our SHI gets updated and we get credit for those units as soon as we can. So moving forward, Affordable Housing Trust also approved their CPC grant last night, so that's settled. And yeah, I'll keep you updated. Hopefully we'll updates each month as this thing starts moving.
Pat, how does the new director for the Habitat, does he seem like he's on top of stuff? I know I like Don, but he's the best with filing and timing.
Yeah, so the new executive is Megan O'Neill. She was previously with Merrimack Habitat, and then they merged with North Shore. So Don's actually still on the board of directors, and he's still active in this project. So it's nice. Don has the extensive kind of construction. He's very good on the construction side. He knows his stuff there. Like you say, he's not. The organizational side isn't his strong suit, that's why it's really nice having Megan there. I mean, she's a true executive director, and
all right, good.
Yeah, keeps things rolling.
And a friend of mine is starting as the director of development there next month.
Oh, great.
She's very experienced, and so she's going to be working with Megan and on some of this. So I think they're going to be, that they consolidated. I think they are going to be a lot more proactive and organized.
Yeah. So I mean, before North Shore, it was Don and his wife would help him out basically, and then Merrimack had a full team. So that it sounds like even with Essex, maybe they're even growing that. But yeah, so it's good news. It's good news that Essex is in our neighborhood now.
Okay, does anybody have any question on any of the grants? Okay, just a couple of more items. I had sent you all a note. I forwarded a note from the town clerk saying that we are all required to sign and validate that we've read the Massachusetts open meeting law and the conflict of interest documents. But I recognize several of you belong to other committees, so I need to understand who's gonna promise to send me their thing.
Never.
Rick's already. But who else is gonna send me their documents so I can look for it, and who's gonna handle them through their own committees?
When did you send that out? I haven't seen hide or hair of it.
About a month ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I'll resend it to you.
Yeah, and then I'll get it back to you right away. So
Okay.
not a problem.
Yeah,
Kathy,
can you just resend me mine too, and that way I'll do it?
okay.
Do we have to take that ethics test too, that I always had to take for zoning?
You're supposed to take it every other year.
Oh, good, I'm good till next year, good.
Yeah, one is you just sign it and say that you're trying to be ethical or you're being
And-
ethical. And the other one is you got to sit through all the videos and answer the questions.
Yes, take the test until you pass, yeah.
Or pass out.
Right.
John, you're gonna do yours on your own, I take it?
Yeah, I'll take care of it with Corinne.
Sherry, you gonna do yours on your own?
If you wouldn't mind forwarding it to me,
Okay,
I'd be grateful. Thank you.
I will do that. And that's it. Okay. We
Jay
already-
sent it on the 19th of January.
Okay,
So hiding her hair of it.
well, I will resend it.
You're the first one on the list, Rob.
I would imagine.
I see your name first on the addressees.
God, I'll find it.
I will resend it. And if you could just sign them and send them back to me so that I can look good in the eyes of the town clerk.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, we talked about the surcharge increase to 3%.
Yes.
We can talk about that ad infinitum the next month and the next, whatever you want to do. And maybe somebody will pick up the banner. I don't know. If the town hall building committee gets pushed off the agenda for town meeting, they might want to pick up the banner, but we'll see. Does anyone else have any other business?
Actually, I have one item. So just actually going back to Rick's application. So right now the policy from the selectmen is that they like to see a official vote from the committee that's asking for an appointment. So prior to putting it on the agenda, we do like to have that a motion and usually have correspondence from the chair. So
Did you tell Rick about the $50 stipend he has to pay all of us to get a yes vote?
I got a link and I've been funding the link. Just kidding.
His Venmo is not working.
Good man.
All right, we'll take a vote. I say yes. Just say yes or no on Rick. Robert,
Yes.
Sean,
You bet.
Larry,
Yes.
and Kim.
Yes,
Okay. Now
And
do
Jay,
I-
just email me that you like him and that you want him on the board, and then we'll put it on the agenda.
I can actually amend the agenda to put it on for
Yeah, that'd be great, Pat. Thanks.
Okay.
And then if you can show up to the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday night when we approve your appointment, just so you can say hi to the rest of the board, that'd be great.
This
it's
Monday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, sorry.
This coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be there.
Sherry, you came in late. Rick Johansson is applying for membership with us. And, Sherry's head of the Council on Aging and the Housing Authority.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Rick. I don't really look like my picture. It's an old one.
You
It's
look pretty.
it's great.
All right, any more business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second, sorry.
Okay,
It's lost.
Let me just do a roll call. Say yes or no on the adjournment. Robert,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
and Kim.
yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Hope you enjoyed.
Nice to meet you all.